An abandoned car. A missing woman. And 7 years later, a wife, bleeding on the floor of a Georgia motel, whispering her killer's name. This is the story of Joyce Marie Pelzer. A woman whose jealous rage spanned years. 2 partners. 2 families. Both destroyed. It began in 2011 with a missing woman. And it ended in 2018, with a dying wife naming her killer as her final act. But to understand how it all happened, how one woman's obsession could lead to so much destruction, we need to start at the beginning. Before we dive in, don't forget to show your support. Hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, and stay active as we explore this tragic story. Shawndell McLeod was 35 years old. A mother, a sister, a daughter. She worked hard. She kept to her routines. Her family said she was dependable, the kind of woman you could set your watch by. So when Shawndell didn't show up for work one morning, everyone knew something was wrong. Her mother tried calling her. No answer. Her siblings checked in. Still nothing. Within hours, her family reported her missing. Police began their search. Not long after, they found her car. It was abandoned, damaged, and muddy, parked as if it had been ditched in a hurry. But Shawndell was gone. Her family immediately pointed to one person, her ex-girlfriend, Joyce Marie Pelzer. Shawndell and Joyce had been together, but their relationship was anything but stable. Friends described it as toxic. Volatile. Joyce was jealous, controlling, unpredictable. By the summer of 2011, things had spiraled. July 2011, police charged Joyce with aggravated assault after she threatened Shawndell with a knife. A warrant was issued for her arrest. August 2011, Shawndell reported Joyce had trespassed into her home and stolen furniture. By September, Shawndell wanted nothing more to do with Joyce. She was done. She told friends she was moving on. And then she vanished. Detectives brought Joyce in. She said she'd been at work all day on September 22, the day Shawndell disappeared. But when police checked her alibi, her boss said she never showed up for her shift. Joyce backtracked. She claimed she'd spent the day with her new girlfriend instead. Detectives were suspicious. But without a body, without physical evidence, there was nothing to hold her on. So Joyce walked away. The only clue, Shawndell's car, sitting abandoned in the mud. For Shawndell's family, the nightmare had just begun. 2012. 2013. 2014. The years rolled on. Shawndell's family never stopped asking questions. They pushed detectives to keep looking. They begged for new searches. But without new evidence, the case went cold. Meanwhile, Joyce moved on with her life. She began a relationship with Rosalyn Lewis. At first, it seemed like a fresh start. Rosalyn was older, independent, strong-willed. But soon, the same patterns began to appear. Joyce was jealous. Possessive. Violent. Rosalyn told friends she was scared. She filed a restraining order. She tried to put distance between them. But just like Shawndell, leaving Joyce would prove nearly impossible. Rosalyn was 47. She was known as funny, compassionate, the kind of woman who made people feel comfortable. She worked hard and took pride in her independence. When she met Joyce, friends noticed a shift. At first, Rosalyn seemed happy. But soon, Joyce's controlling nature began to show. Arguments turned into threats. Rosalyn confided in people that she feared for her safety. She even told some that she didn't think Joyce would ever let her go. She was right. On December 10, 2018, guests at a Motel 6, Conyers, Georgia, were jolted awake by the sound of screaming. At first, one man thought it was nothing. Just a couple arguing. But the screams grew sharper. Louder. He stepped into the breezeway, walked toward the sound, and froze. A woman was collapsing in the doorway of room 114. Her clothes were soaked in blood. She had been stabbed more than 30 times. Her name was Rosalyn Lewis. 911 calls flooded in. She's bleeding bad. Somebody stabbed her. Where is she bleeding from? Everywhere. Her chest. Her stomach. Please, she's dying. Paramedics rushed to the scene. Rosalyn drifted in and out of consciousness. And then, with her final strength, she did something extraordinary. She whispered a name. Joyce. Joyce Pelzer. Multiple guests at Motel 6 saw it too. Joyce walking calmly out of the room, knife in hand. A black hat and jacket. A small dog following her, Rosalyn's dog. She didn't hide her face. She didn't run. She walked away like someone who had already accepted what she had done. Police wasted no time. They put out an alert, a black Nissan, driven by a woman, armed and dangerous. Motel cameras caught her on tape. Witnesses gave descriptions. Within hours, state troopers spotted her on I-75. They tried to pull her over. Joyce refused. The chase was on. Sirens screamed. Helicopters circled. Patrol cars closed in. Then Joyce pulled a gun. She fired at police. Officers returned fire. Windows shattered. Tires screeched. Finally, Joyce was hit twice. Her car spun out. She was alive, but bleeding. She was airlifted to a hospital. Handcuffed to her bed. Detectives moved fast. They guarded her 24/7. They took blood samples, saliva swabs, photographs of her wounds. When she finally regained consciousness, they asked her questions. Joyce played games. She pretended she couldn't hear. She said she couldn't see. She cried. But detectives knew better. They had the evidence. They had Rosalyn's dying words. In 2021, Joyce pleaded guilty to Rosalyn's murder. She was sentenced to life in prison. But the story didn't end there. Because Rosalyn's murder reopened a door that had been closed for 7 years. The cold case of Shawndell McLeod. If you're finding this case as gripping as I am, make sure you stay tuned, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss more stories. Rosalyn Lewis's death in December 2018 was tragic on its own. But for detectives, it wasn't just a new case. It was also a key that unlocked an old mystery. The name Joyce Pelzer was already in their files. Tied to another woman. Another relationship. Another nightmare. That woman was Shawndell McLeod. Her 2011 disappearance had haunted her family for 7 long years. And now, after Rosalyn's stabbing, detectives had fresh reason to go back and look again. This time, they didn't have to start from scratch. Months before Rosalyn's death, police had actually received a tip. Joyce's new girlfriend had come forward. She said Joyce had admitted killing Shawndell. The confession was chilling. Joyce said she and Shawndell had argued violently. She kidnapped her. She kept her alive for days. And then she buried her. Even worse, she admitted she had planned it in advance. She had dug the grave before Shawndell ever disappeared. At the time, the tip wasn't enough to charge her. But now? Now police had a pattern. They had Rosalyn's murder. They had witnesses. They had the testimony of a dying woman who named her killer. So detectives reopened the cold case. Step by step, they went back through everything. July 2011, Shawndell reports Joyce threatening her with a knife. Police file charges. August 2011, Joyce breaks into Shawndell's home and steals furniture. More charges filed. September 2011, Shawndell disappears. Her car is found muddy and abandoned. The sequence of events painted a clear picture. Shawndell had been trying to break free. And Joyce wasn't willing to let her go. Detectives re-interviewed friends and family. Everyone said the same thing: Shawndell feared Joyce. She told people she didn't feel safe. She told them Joyce wouldn't stop until something terrible happened. And then she was gone. The hardest part of the McLeod case was the lack of physical evidence. Shawndell's body was never found. Without remains, there was no direct proof of how she died. But prosecutors didn't need a body. Not anymore. They had Joyce's history of violence. Her lies to police in 2011. The tip from her girlfriend that she confessed. And most of all, the parallels to Rosalyn's case. It was a pattern too strong to ignore. So in 2023, Joyce Marie Pelzer was officially charged with the murder of Shawndell McLeod. On the day of the trial, the courtroom was tense. Shawndell's family sat on one side. Rosalyn's family came to support them. And Joyce, now serving time for Rosalyn's murder, was brought in wearing prison clothes. The prosecution laid out the story. Joyce was controlling, abusive, violent. She had threatened Shawndell. She had trespassed into her home. And when Shawndell tried to leave, Joyce made sure she never would. Then the prosecution drew the connection. 7 years later, Joyce did the same thing to Rosalyn. This time, there was no disappearance. No mystery. Witnesses saw it. Rosalyn herself named Joyce before dying. The pattern was clear. Joyce's defense team tried to fight back. They argued there wasn't enough evidence. They said the confession to her girlfriend couldn't be trusted. They pointed out there was still no body. At one point, Joyce even tried to shift the blame. She claimed that it wasn't her who killed Shawndell. She suggested that Rosalyn, her dead wife, had orchestrated it years earlier. But the jury didn't believe her. The lies, the manipulation, the desperate excuses, they had seen it all before. On December 1, 2023, after more than a decade of waiting, Shawndell McLeod's family finally heard the words they had been praying for. Guilty. Joyce Marie Pelzer was convicted of malice murder and felony murder. The sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole. For Shawndell's mother, it was bittersweet. She had justice, but no body to bury. No grave to visit. No chance to say goodbye. But at least, finally, the truth had been spoken in a courtroom. Who was Joyce Marie Pelzer? To outsiders, she could be charming, funny, even magnetic. She drew people in. But behind closed doors, she showed a different face. Controlling. Manipulative. Explosive. Her relationships followed the same cycle. At first, she was loving. Then came jealousy. Then threats. Then violence. Shawndell reported it. Rosalyn reported it. Both filed restraining orders. Both told friends they were terrified. Both tried to leave. And both ended up dead. Experts say this is the cycle of coercive control. Abusers escalate. What starts as jealousy grows into threats. Threats grow into violence. And when victims try to leave, that's when they're in the most danger. Joyce fit that pattern perfectly. For Shawndell's family, the verdict was a release. But the pain never went away. They still didn't know where her body was. They still had unanswered questions. For Rosalyn's family, the loss was raw. They remembered her laugh, her strength, her determination to live free. They remembered how she fought until her final breath, whispering the truth even as her life slipped away. Both families had been bound together by the same tragedy. Both lost someone they loved because of the same woman. Today, Joyce sits in a Georgia prison. She will never walk free again. For investigators, the case was a lesson. Restraining orders aren't bulletproof. Warnings need to be taken seriously. And sometimes, it takes tragedy to finally bring justice. For the public, it's a chilling reminder of how obsession can destroy lives. 2 women. 7 years apart. Both tried to leave Joyce Pelzer. Neither survived. But in the end, Rosalyn's whispered words ensured Joyce could never harm another soul again. Joyce Pelzer. True crime stories often leave us with questions. Why did this happen? Could it have been prevented? What warning signs were missed? In this case, the signs were there. The threats. The restraining orders. The calls to police. But Joyce Pelzer was given chance after chance. And each time, another woman paid the price. Shawndell McLeod never came home. Rosalyn Lewis died in a motel, drenched in blood. And Joyce Pelzer? She will die in prison. For Shawndell's family, for Rosalyn's family, that is the only justice left. Thanks for sticking with us through this story. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for more gripping true crime stories, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss one.